Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the ThePCelitist. My name is Woodsy.
My name is Shepard.
And it is, what, the 23rd today? So
Sure.
It's Monday. We have to do a week in review. We need, like, theme music right there.
It's an early Christmas present for Jesus.
Our weekend PC review.
Yes.
I'm guessing he's a PC gamer. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he is.
He was our 19th subscriber. Subscribal is what I call him.
Subscribe.
Yep.
So,
What are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to do the news for the last week, which big news, big PC news, have to go there first, is DayZ Alpha is finally out. After being in obscurity for I don't know how long. And I think Rocket kind of disappeared off the map, you know? Went to a monastery for a while because no one could track him down. It's finally out.
It is out, and I love the marketing strategy. On the Steam page, everywhere you look, they say, do not buy this game unless you want to support the development process. This is an alpha. It is not polished. Do not buy this game unless you want to.
90,000 people did not read that.
No, they did not.
So it's been selling like crazy.
Yes.
Crazy. Huh?
Wow. Oh.
So I got the game. I just wanted, like, that's the news. The big news is that it's out, But I was playing it a little bit, and I just wanted to give my initial impressions of it. I wasn't a big DayZ player at all, because by the time I was getting around to get into it, and one of our subscribers who we play with was trying to get me to play, it was already like on the horizon that the standalone was going to be out. So me purchasing, Arma and jumping through hoops to get it working, it wasn't worth it to me. I just thought, I'll just wait for the standalone and I'll play that.
We were also just so in love with the War Z at the time. For about 2 weeks.
That was horrible.
It was so bad.
No, I mean, it was fun. The game was fun, but they just kept... it was like became obvious that like this game isn't going to grow, and
they're just going to steal your money and then get all of their infrastructure hacked. Yeah,
yeah, that's what's going to happen. So anyway, DayZ, I played a few lives already, and the things I'm impressed with is I know this is like a heavily modified Arma 2 engine from what I understand. Because every time you ask what engine is it in, people says it's sorta Arma 2. And I don't know what that means, and even when I look it up, it seems like that's the answer everyone gives. It's like a highly modified Arma 2 engine.
Yeah, but I think it's a customized Crash Bandicoot engine. Is my understanding.
Yes, that's what it is. But it looks so much better than Arma 2. Arma 2 looks like garbage, and this game looks as good as Arma 3. The texturing is really well done. And I gotta say, one of the most graphically impressive things is the fact that you could go anywhere in the map, but when you look at a huge tree line, all the trees are like slightly wavering in the wind. It looks fantastic. So, right now I'm impressed with it. I think it's odd that they still have some of the same weird glitches that the old DayZ had. Like, it's kind of like just a visual rebuff right now, and they're still missing some vehicles, but I'm not going to judge it, because basically they released it with caveat, don't judge us. We're just
right. Pay us your $30+, but don't judge us yet. I think what's most interesting is that, at least in the release that I read, that they're expecting to be in alpha for about a year until the beta comes out. And I think it's interesting that they announced that at this time. And so this will be a game that will be many years in development, because if beta is late 2014 or even early 2015, full release we're looking at, we'll be on the 19th installment of Assassin's Creed by that time.
Right. Don't expect a full release until we have a new president.
Yeah, at least.
So, but it's out. So everyone can stop complaining, where is Rocket, where is the game? So there it is. Fantastic. I'm excited. I'm going to start playing it right now. In our next story, we have EA from...
Getting their asses litigated.
Yeah.
Kind of.
by investors. Why don't you run down? You explained it to me in a very succinct way, so I'm going to have you do that with everybody else.
Yes, this is not the only lawsuit that's being brought against EA, but the long and the short of it is that there are investors who are accusing EA of hyping up the game, hyping up the sales expectations.
Battlefield 4.
Battlefield 4, yes, sorry. And so the suit is alleging that executives at EA knew the game was going to be really buggy when it was released and would have a lot of performance issues, and that it would not meet the massive and ambitious sales targets that had been set, but that they used the hype to drum up the stock price and to continue to engender investments from various firms. So they're being accused of that. It's not so much that they're being sued because people aren't happy with the game. That's not what's happening here. It's more on the business and the back end, saying you hyped this to be God's gift to not just gaming but entertainment in general, and you knew that there were problems with it that you did not fix before launch. And it's kind of up in the air right now. So the lawsuit was filed in summer, so this is not brand new, but the details are just starting to come out in the last week or so.
Right.
So it's interesting to see how this is going to play out, because again, it's not gamers suing EA for Battlefield not being as good as they wanted to. So this isn't setting some kind of precedent where if you're bad with the launch of a game, you can just sue them. But on the business end, this is the kind of thing I don't think you would have seen in video games a decade ago, 20 years ago, because never before have games been on the scale and on the hype and the marketing size of movies.
And the cash cow.
This is the
amount
kind
of money
of thing
that's involved in these
Yeah,
games.
this is the kind of thing you'd expect from a movie studio. If someone, what was the? Never mind. Go ahead.
Well, I was
Trying
just
to think of
curious.
the movie.
Do you think that I know this doesn't create the precedent for what I'm about to say, but what happens when one day, like a Kickstarter that makes a lot of money doesn't deliver? Do people make a class action suit against the company? Do you think that one day might be a possibility?
Well, I haven't read the legalese on making pledges on Kickstarter, but I wonder if people write in that you forfeit your rights to later litigation based on being just unhappy with the game.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think this might go towards. Didn't EA win the Golden Poo Award last year? Didn't we talk about that?
So, yeah.
Yeah. So they're on their way for another one, possibly.
Nice.
But speaking of Kickstarter, you see that? You see that segue I did?
Yeah, that was beautiful.
I know. And the best part about it is I didn't call any attention to it. The Kickstarter, we should just rename this Game Starter, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Because what you brought to my attention is that there's a story on Games Industry International, which is that 20% of money on Kickstarter is all in gaming.
Yeah, since its inception, games have raised over $200 million. If you take away the games that raised funds but did not hit their target, it's still like $180 million or something. Mm-hmm. But since the dawn of Kickstarter, it's raised almost $1 billion, about $920 million, and 22% of that has been for video games. Wow. So this is clearly a platform that the gaming industry has seized upon. And I think it has certainly opened some eyes, because I think you're going to see, and I think you are seeing and will continue to see, movies being funded this way. This is a way to fund entertainment, not just, wouldn't this be a cool project to do in my hometown? Can I get someone to invest $4,000 in it?
Right.
You're seeing targets. Once you're seeing targets in the 6 figures, 7 figures, that's pretty serious. You're going to the public. Raise money, and $200 million is nothing to sniff at.
No, and especially if you take a game like Star Citizen that started at and just made like 2.6 million or something on Kickstarter, but they continued to crowdfund just on their own site. Right. And Chris Roberts will tell you that, and he said it at the GDC next when we were there, was that basically Kickstarter doesn't have to be your end-all, be-all. It's a great way to start a community of people, of fans, for what you're doing. It shouldn't be the end of what you're doing. You shouldn't make your money on a Kickstarter, then go and take that money, but you could continue funding throughout the entire process. was his philosophy, and it seems like a great way to start, because if you pass your Kickstarter, I mean, lots of game websites pick up on what you just did.
Hmm.
And it seems like movie sites and movie industry people would do the same thing. As long as you make your Kickstarter and you kind of get the ball rolling, you can create a community for whatever it is, whatever project you're working on.
Hmm.
So it does more than just raise money. It raises awareness, which is what we love to do.
Yeah, well, we should be raising awareness about actual things that need attention in the world. We're raising awareness about video games.
Hey, video games need attention.
Not the most emerging threat, packs of wild dogs that control most of the major cities in North America. Is my shout out to Talladega Nights.
So, going from games that have started up, let's go to games that were totally scrapped. Okay,
Yes.
Rainbow Six Patriots. They were scrapped, and they scrapped the project and restarted it. From what I
Yeah,
understand.
Ubisoft decided that this current state of the project of Rainbow Six Patriots was not what they wanted it to be. They wanted to, and perhaps it's fueled by the recent passing of Tom Clancy, that they wanted to make the next release up to what his standards would be. But I think it's commendable that you have a developer on the size and scale of Ubisoft deciding, rather than push out a game that is clearly not what they had intended it to be, which so many companies do nowadays. We're looking
Right.
at you, Bethesda. I think it's commendable that they decided, you know what, this just isn't working. We're going to start over from scratch, and they have the resources to do that. Not every firm can just start over.
Right.
But I think it's commendable that this kind of action is being taken. So I haven't been following this game very closely, just bits and pieces here and there. But I would be interested to see what the nuts and bolts were about what exactly they didn't like about the project.
Right.
But yeah, I just think that this is worth noting, just because you hope that this type of behavior would be the norm rather than something that we should point out for being singularly interesting.
I think it's Yeah, I think it's interesting that it's described this way, because there's so many games throughout the years they've gone so far in development and maybe kind of took 2 steps backwards so they could take 3 steps forward, kind of situation. Kind of ditch certain mechanics to try to just finish the game. But it's a different thing when they say we have scrapped the entire project up to this point, and we're going to just start from scratch. Like how much in the gutter must have it have been?
Yeah.
Where
So pull the plug.
yeah, we're not salvaging any of it. We're not saying the project is still on the same course it's been, just with a few delays. We are scrapping and restarting.
Yeah, what they should have done with Duke Nukem Forever.
They should have just scrapped and never restarted
Yeah.
with that game. Should never have done it. But you know what's interesting about that is that, did you see that little snippet about the Duke Nukem Forever mod that came out?
No.
Okay, someone took the old Duke Nukem Forever trailer, which I'll have to find the link for it because it wasn't planned for this. But anyway, the old Duke Nukem Forever trailer back in the 90s or whatever, early 2000s, someone took all the images of that and they made a Duke Nukem mod in the original Duke Nukem engine, Duke Nukem 3D, and tried to recreate all those story elements and try to piece them together. So to kind of like de facto create the original quote-unquote vision of Duke Nukem Forever, which I thought, modders are awesome. They're just I love them so much.
And we'll be discussing those in, well, I guess we have in our recent video, the Case for PC Part 3, the open platform.
Right.
And we'll also be discussing in future videos about the community of PC.
Right. Sometimes we have to talk about, the console verse just to show the stark difference and the awesomeness of PC. And this is where our last story comes into play. The ID at Xbox parity clause. Problematic for the indie scene. This story also comes from Games Industry International.
We're trying to get some more details on this, but we will present it to you with the information that we got from this article, and I'm looking into, and we wanted to present this, we didn't want to wait until next week, because again, this is a weekly episode we're doing here. What seems to be, and some of you may know more about this than we do, so please feel free to fill us in a little more on the backstory on this, But it sounds like as part of Xbox One's contracts that it draws up with indie developers is a clause that states if you want to release your game for multiple platforms, but Xbox One being one of them, you have to release it to all platforms simultaneously. You cannot release it in June for PlayStation. You cannot release it in then August for Xbox and then December for PC. It all has to be simultaneous. And what this seems to be is Microsoft protecting itself from being the, as you put it, the Johnny-come-lately to the party. What they don't want is for an indie developer, or any developer really, to release a game and have Xbox get it later. You know,
Right.
whether for whatever reason, that could be that they don't have the developer does not have the dev kit for Xbox, so it can't get the game out at the same time. And so what this ends up doing is it tells these developers, you either cannot release your game to us, or you have to wait until you finish the version for all platforms, which means you're going to be losing out on those sales until you can release it for all platforms.
Well, would it stand to reason that wouldn't you go another way on this personally? Because I just don't like red tape, obviously, because that's why I'm a PC guy. Mm-hmm. But instead of trying to put up a barrier or punishing developers, indie developers especially, this would be a problem for having delays in maybe their Xbox version of the game, wouldn't you want to try to just make your platform where they'd want to put it first, like make it more inviting?
The way states have very lucrative and tempting tax systems to encourage companies to headquarter there.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's a competition, right? I mean, they're competitive. So instead of kind of putting up the walls and saying, no, unless you meet these standards, you're not allowed to come into Microsoftville, wouldn't you instead try to just lower the entry cost and say, make it more attractive to come in?
Yeah, and some of the pushback that Microsoft is getting from the development community on this is that it indicates that Microsoft is not quite ready yet for the indie developer scene, and that they still are focusing on the AAA and AA, I suppose you can call them, level of developers.
Right.
So this is one of those things where I feel like it's not going to be hard and fast. I don't think it's always going to be this way.
Right.
But I wonder at what point will the scales be tipped such that Microsoft says, okay, well, Sony currently doesn't have this. You know, what it is I think it could go multiple ways, but is one way where Microsoft laxes this clause or Sony implements this. I think that Sony is just as intently as Microsoft is listening to the feedback on this. So is Sony, so are any of the other major platforms out there.
Right.
In terms of, well, if a developer just doesn't want to make games for you, even though you could open them to a huge market of consumers, you have to weigh that, as a platform. So I think that it's clear that as indie games are rising, clearly they have been, and will continue to do so. It'll be curious to see how Microsoft responds to this.
Right.
But the ball is definitely in their court.
Right.
And if they say we're just doing this to protect ourselves from losing out on business, and I think we're going to lose some business no matter what because you can't please everyone. What is the risk analysis you have to do to say, is this going to be better or worse than the alternative?
Right. Well, we've seen a lot of, in recent history, seen a lot of blowback and big companies changing their policy. So, we'll see how
Looking
much
at you, Google. And we're still looking at you, Bethesda. I haven't stopped looking at you. I have 4 eyes.
You've been staring at them the entire time. Okay. Well, that is our news for the week, guys. Hope you enjoyed the commentary. We'll have all the links for all the videos down below. If you enjoy our spiel, please, subscribe, comment, rate this video. If you like it, you don't like it, just rate. It's the easiest way to help out me and Sheppy. I am Woodsy.
I am Shepard. This is the PC Elitist signing out.